Export restrictions on sensors remain a barrier. For the first time, real footage of North Korean troops in the Ukraine war was released. The 1-minute, 39-second video showed North Korean troops appearing stronger than before. Let's dive into today's topic. As you know, North Korea has sent 15,000 troops to Ukraine. North Korean troops, trying to prevent desertion, often moved in groups but were wiped out by Ukrainian forces. As a result, some believe the North Korean army would gain little real combat experience. Recently, the North Korean army appears completely different in videos, as if they've changed entirely. To briefly summarize the video, you can see that the North Korean soldiers are wearing red armbands on their arms for identification. To help tell friend from foe, you might spot them in white camouflage uniforms in snowy areas. It seemed they had also gained urban warfare experience. For example, before entering, they would throw a grenade in first, or instead of approaching the door, they would wait against the wall before making entry. Unlike before, the North Korean army clearly showed growth from real combat experience. Also, you could see them forming anti-air fire with rifles to take down drones, and using their own weapons in real combat to collect actual combat data. This is the key point. The North Korean army was also seen practicing TC3. In the past, it was called first aid. On the battlefield, everyone has to become a medic. There are many people who can be saved just by proper first aid. Statistics show that excluding instant battle deaths, about 70% of those who could have been saved would have survived with proper first aid. This is a statistic from the Iraq War in the United States. Currently, North Korea has sent 15,000 troops, and about 4,700 of them are casualties. Although it's an estimate, too many North Korean soldiers have been harmed. Because of this, it seems that the North Korean military has realized how important TC3 is, and they appear to have applied it directly in real combat. North Korean military changes go beyond personnel. Their weaponry is even more surprising. Around 40% of Russia's weapons in the Ukraine war are reportedly made in North Korea. This is more than mere suspicion. Ukrainian intelligence reports that many shells, missiles, and rocket launchers Russia uses on the battlefield are made in North Korea. Russia has used North Korean ballistic missiles to attack major Ukrainian cities. Many artillery shells found on the battlefield were made in North Korea. North Korean weapons aren't just stored away, they're actively being tested in real combat right now. The problem goes beyond this. If North Korean weapons were just being used, it might not be as worrying. War is like a giant laboratory. Thousands of shells and dozens of missiles are launched at enemy positions. In that process, some weapons hit their targets accurately, some miss due to errors, and some even fail to launch at all. Sending such large amounts of data directly to North Korea is a major disadvantage for South Korea. North Korea lacks funds, making sustained large-scale weapons development difficult. As a result, they've barely upgraded their weapons. But this time, it's a bit different. The huge battlefield called Russia is serving as an expensive testing ground for North Korea. North Korea can use real combat data to fix failed missiles, improve inaccurate shells, and upgrade performance through tech exchanges with Russia. The result is obvious. North Korean weapons, once seen as cheap, will now become more precise and lethal. Where do you think they'll be aimed? It could be South Korea. In other words, North Korean weapons flying over the Ukrainian battlefield are not just tools of war, they are test models and sources for upgrades that threaten South Korea's future security. This is why our military must stay vigilant. Most importantly, we must note that the North Korean military is gaining more than just experience with guns and artillery. They've gained hands-on experience with key future weapons like drones and electronic warfare. The South Korean military also recognizes drones' importance. They emphasize strengthening drone capabilities in their doctrines, which is regularly noted in defense white papers. But in reality, there is still a long way to go. Frontline units lack sufficient drone supplies and have little practical tactical drone training. It only exists in theory, and soldiers lack practical experience using them in battle. However, the North Korean military is different. They have first-hand experience on the Ukrainian battlefield with drone detection, attacks, and shoot-downs. They have first-hand combat experience with enemy reactions to drone deployment, recovering or redeploying drones during electronic warfare and similar situations. The North Korean military already operates drones more effectively than the South Korean military understands them. There's an even more surprising fact. Recent reports say Russian instructors are training North Korean drone pilots in Russia. This goes beyond simply participating in the war. It means that Russia is developing the North Korean military into an advanced weapons operation unit. North Korea has even dispatched its personnel to Russian drone factories. They're not just receiving training, they're actually learning the entire production process from the ground up. This shows North Korea is shifting from just buying drones to manufacturing, improving, and mass producing them independently. We now live in a time when one drone can take down a jet or destroy a tank. Scenes of small drones costing only tens of thousands or even just thousands of dollars disabling tanks worth millions are being captured daily on the battlefield in Ukraine. Drones are cost-effective weapons, but what if North Korean soldiers gained real combat experience using them? Drone swarms could enter any major military base near the capital. The issue goes beyond equipment to tactical understanding. You can buy equipment with money, but real combat experience is priceless. North Korea's military has real combat experience the South Korean military lacks. This is one of the deadliest threats we could face in the future, and ultimately, the problem comes back to us. As North Korea gains real combat data, we must also get real combat experience to maintain balance. But here we face a difficult reality. We can't start a war ourselves, nor can we easily send troops to overseas conflicts. Recently, some have suggested that we should directly deploy Korean troops to the Ukrainian front, but I think this is an excessively risky idea. Considering the political burden we would have to bear, the international repercussions, and above all, the safety of our soldiers, it's practically not an option. That doesn't mean we can be idle. We must find alternatives to real combat experience. The most practical way is to obtain battlefield data indirectly through our allied countries. For example, we can share information from allies with real experience, like drone use in the Ukraine war, artillery adjustments, and electronic warfare impact. Studying their successes and failures lets us learn and apply those lessons to our military without direct conflict. There is another way as well. Various volunteer forces from around the world are already participating in the Ukraine war, and among them, there are also people from Korea. Officially addressing this at the military level is difficult, but learning from their first-hand combat experience and incorporating it into doctrine or training can be very valuable. T1's first-hand battlefield experience is much more valuable than many training exercises. Ultimately, real combat data is key. No matter how advanced the equipment is or how sophisticated the training system is, if it isn't backed by real battlefield experience, there are limits to how much combat power can be achieved. North Korea is quickly gaining this data by working with Russia. We need to work closely with our allies to narrow that gap as much as possible. Every real combat experience may help our soldiers survive in the future, though there are important aspects we must not ignore. While the North Korean military is gaining combat experience, it doesn't mean they've become an elite force. The North Korean military still faces structural issues, notably a poor supply system. North Korea lacks funds, so while their soldiers abroad manage, those at home can't even get proper meals. Since the Russian military struggles with supplies, it's even harder for the less supported North Korean military to maintain stable combat power. Another issue is the lack of precision equipment. Apart from drones and missiles, North Korea's military uses outdated rifles, old vests, and basic night vision equipment. While a few troops get modern gear, most North Korean soldiers still use outdated manpower-based combat methods. The capability of the commanders is also a problem. Since the North Korean military operates under strict control and surveillance systems, it is difficult for them to use flexible tactics. Platoon leaders, company commanders, and unit commanders have never properly received training to make independent decisions according to the situation, so as battles become more complicated, the possibility of greater casualties increases. Most importantly, Russia is treating the North Korean military as expendable weapons. North Korean soldiers are often sent on the most dangerous Russian frontline missions or high-risk fronts. Consequently, both the casualty rate and reported ratio are high. Because there are clearly several limitations like this, the real combat experience of the North Korean army may not immediately lead to a comprehensive increase in military power. However, there is a point here that we need to be cautious about. Just because there are limitations doesn't mean we can let our guard down. Experience grows over time. Although it may seem lacking now, the North Korean army is clearly learning more than before. In other words, the North Korean army's practical experience may not bring about overwhelming changes in a short period of time, but in the long run, there is a strong possibility that it could become a new threat to our security. We need to view the North Korean army objectively, but never underestimate them. What do you think about the strengthened North Korean army? Please let us know in the comments. That's the end of the video. Thank you.